Welcome to the podcast, hablemos de lo nuevo. For the G's, by the G's, ¿qué pasa en el terreno? Vienen jugadores y se van, traiga lo nuevo, a huevo. Doesn't matter where you from, Salvador, Mexico, Honduras, Nicaragua. Todo mi latino, come and listen for an hour. TikTok, que traemos lo que quiere, todo lo que pasa dentro y fuera de las redes. Really? You don't know what it is. Reportamos con la lupa what we see at the digs. En las buenas y en las malas yo diré la verdad. Si cometen un error o tienen habilidad, la calidad del rival cuando viene a jugar. Facts. Yo no me muerdo la lengua. Got love for the crest in the city I came from. Los campeones de campeones y con copas mi race. No empezamos, empurgamos, soy la voz de LA One. Soy la voz de LA One. Love. Yeah.
Hello, hola, and buenas, and welcome back to another episode of La Cuna Galaxiana, a podcast always made with love for all you champions out there, all you champions supporting the LA Galaxy, wherever you may be, whatever you're doing. Thank you so much for coming back and hanging out with us once again. Today, we'll get you caught up on everything you need to know post-MLS Cup, from roster decisions to Champions Cup draws, from merch updates to digs renovations. We'll share all the Galaxy news from the moment your champions lifted the trophy until now. Here with us, once again, will be special guest Alex Ruiz, El Profe. He'll be here to give us his thoughts on how the Galaxy might proceed with their roster, and if it's possible, to repeat as champions. Let me introduce myself. I'm one of your co-hosts, as usual, Rob Halon. You can find my written work at Extra Time Talk, and you can find me online at El Escudero de LA. And you know what? I'm here, so that means El Otro Campeón está aquí a mi lado, my co-host desde el país bello de España, Anandita Kirana, el yerno guapo y el gitano perdido. Papá, how's it going over there early in the morning right now?
Early in the morning, bueno, estoy vigilando a Ricky para asegurar que todo está bien ahí, está recuperando bien, está con su familia, ¿sabes? Está bien. No, pero, a ver, primero, ¿qué pasó en el chat? ¿Cómo están los campeones ahí? Dímelo.
That's
right? How you guys feeling right now?
I mean,
man,
it seems like they're up. I mean, everyone's saying, what's up, champ 6 time, campeones. That's what I like to see. Lo bonito es bonito, right?
Yep. Exactly. But like, I just thought about this. Like, I haven't seen you, like, well, I've seen you like virtually, but I haven't seen you in person since we won that 6 MLS Cup at Dignity Health Sports Park, sharing a slam in pastrami, by the way, across the street over there. For what's that place called? I forgot. But anyways, shout out that place.
It was baller.
What was that place called? Yeah, it was super baller. But yeah, how are you, man? Has your week been? I know we haven't really talked. We just kind of texted each other back and forth. But are you still like on cloud 9? Are you as reality setting it? And how are you feeling right now?
You know, it's not really. It hasn't really set in yet. You know, it's one of those things that I wake up and I'm like, oh yeah, these guys won their 6th MLS Cup championship. That's crazy. Just because, like, so far that the team has come, you know, and I was speaking to some folks at the Blue, White, and Gold. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And yeah, same thing with them, man. They're like, they wake up and they're like, dang, this team really won it all. Like, that's absolutely nuts. Like, no podemos creer todavía. But, you know, as much as we're like celebrating it, I mean, there's already stuff happening. There's already like business afoot, and the Galaxy are, you know, I mean, it's basically like, hey, you won the title on Saturday. By Monday, you're already doing things, right? So that's the price of being successful, I guess, right?
Exactly. Really quick though, Rob, before we do move on, I do want to give a huge shout out to Scott. He says, have a great show. I'm going to listen to it. He's having surgery tomorrow morning. So Scott, from all of us to you here at La Cuna Galaxiana, everyone in chat, best of luck, man. And Godspeed, my friend.
Campeón, go get it, crack. Yeah, man, we're with you. Mandándote buenas vibras, sending you good vibes, and yeah, man, we're all with you. G's community, man. I mean, we're all sending those good vibes. So, and you know, speaking of this G's community, man, I just want to say thank you for everybody out there that's been supporting this pod all season. I mean, it's been 11 months since we started at the CVI, and we got season 2 going, and now we're here. Ananda, do you want to take care of some housekeeping?
Sí, señor. So, of course, guys, as always, you can follow me, block me, or stalk me at Ananda Galaxiana. Of course, both of our handles are on the screen there if you're watching this on YouTube. And, of course, as Rob said, I mean, really, really appreciate the support. So much so, guys, that we just hit 400 subs. So, again, really, really appreciate the community and just everyone just keeping it locked in with us and really just like embracing us with open arms. Right, Rob? I think that's been sort of the biggest thing that has taken me by surprise, and just really super humbled by that. But of course, guys, if you like what you're listening to and you have not yet, and you want to keep up with the news and hang out with us, go ahead and give that subscribe, guys, and hit the notification bell for when we're on live like this. You will get notified as well. And of course, hit that like button. I don't know where my VPs of likes out there are in chat, but go ahead and smash up those likes. And of course, as Robert always says, share the good vibes with a friend. Share the good of the 6-time MLS Cup campeones, papa, with someone.
Campeones.
Like you said, it's everyone's fair game. Elotero, like your la señora que está dando tacos ahí a la paradita, pues dale, right?
Yeah,
like,
man.
Everyone share that love,
and especially if you know any fellow G's that are like, oh man, like there's like nothing happening in G's Landia right now. Like, what's up? I mean, put them onto the pod. I mean, we'll get you everything you need to know. Lo prometemos, or we'll try as hard as we can to make that happen. But yeah, man, like Ananda said, thank you so much to all you guys for letting us hit 400 plus. Ananda, I don't know if you mentioned, but you know, if anybody out there wants to know how this humble little pod was started, we were on an episode of Box to Box through Goals TV, and that's up on their platform as well. So go ahead and check that one out. It was crazy because during that episode we found out stuff about each other that we didn't even know previously, and you know, we've been doing this pod for like 2 years now. So anyway, check that one out, guys. Your Galacticos, we'll have the other half of the Galacticos on with us here in a little bit. We're hard at work preparing another Galacticos segment for you. Check out that last one. That peak Vanny Ball one was a really, really good one. It basically tells you how this team won the title. So if you want to figure out, if you want to know how it was done, go ahead and check out this Los Galacticos peak Vanny Ball. Ananda, anything else on your side before we get into these announcements proper?
Claro que sí. Tú ya lo sabes. Ya lo sabes, ¿no?
No, a ver, dime.
Papá. Bueno, como siempre, antes de olvidarme, desde Barcelona, Cataluña, buenos días, tardes o noches, y bienvenidos a otro capítulo de La Cuna Galaxiana, la casa de tus campeones de MLS por la sexta vez. Vámonos.
Seis veces. See, I've been seeing a lot of people do this for like the 6, right? But then I saw somebody do this, and I loved it. I don't know why.
I like
just,
it.
Yeah, I don't know why I loved it so much, man. I was just like, oh, that's kind of clean. Guys, you know, we bring you Galaxy news and all that, but we also bring you stuff that's adjacent in the community. And AV Alta certainly qualifies as that. They are the new professional soccer team in Lancaster. So AV, if any of you G's out there are from the AV, I mean, you have a professional soccer team now to support in the Antelope Valley. So AV Alta recently announced that they were signing their first player, Miguel Ibarra, who you know, had a very productive and journeyman-like career, is going home to the AV. He joins the USL League One team that begins play in the AV in March. So next season, AV Alta is getting underway. So Ananda, you can be sure that I'll be there catching that first AV game. Ibarra had a 12-year career. That's all in play for 6 teams in 5 leagues in 2 countries. And like I mentioned, this one is Galaxy adjacent because I know that there's a lot of G's out there that are in the new AV Alta supporter group. So they're going to be out there as well and supporting this team. So Ibarra, highly successful story from the Antelope Valley. No player from the AV played more games for the U.S. national team or scored more goals in MLS than Ibarra. In fact, not many have made it out of the AV at all. Another one, being Sean Franklin, of course. And the AV Alta's general manager, Niamias Nini Blanco, said about Ibarra, when we're preaching local, we're appreciating the whole full circle with Miguel. That's probably the best story to tell in the community. One of our own is coming back home. Miguel is a perfect signing, a perfect story. And like I mentioned on Sean Franklin, I did run into him not last week, or it was the week of MLS Cup, Ananda. And I asked him, since he's from the AV, if he has any involvement. And he did say that he is involved. He is, trying to be as involved as he can. He couldn't reveal exactly what he has going on with AV Alta, but he's going to be involved in some way, shape, or form. So if you're from the AV and you're looking to support your local club, go ahead and check out AV Alta. Shout out to Ray from Galactic celebrating his birthday today. Hey, El Presi we had on the show. I actually saw him at the Blue, White, and Gold yesterday. Shout out to him. Happy birthday. Israel Berrigan says, long live El Rey. Guys, from a team starting up in the AV to a team potentially being sold and leaving their community and their roots. It was announced this week that the Vancouver Whitecaps were to be sold in what should have been their 50th anniversary year, a year of celebration, a year of fun, a year of memories, especially with the team that has a pretty big future. Caps fans might be losing their team. It was announced that Whitecaps co-owners Greg Kerfoot, Jeff Mallett, Steve Luxo, and Steve Nash, that's Steve Nash from basketball fame, have decided to sell the team. Kerfoot purchased the Whitecaps in 2002 for $30 million, and they were just recently valued by Forbes and Sportico at $470 million. That's a crazy number to me, Ananda, because a lot of these Premiership teams aren't, valued at that. I believe when Newcastle was sold a couple years ago, it was sold at $550 million, and they're like a legacy club more than 100 years old. But this is crazy, man, because this is just 18 months before Vancouver hosts games in the World Cup, 2026 World Cup. And, the owners said that it's, time for them to leave and find somebody with the platform, resources, and ambition to help the club realize its significant potential. The sporting director, Alex Schuster, says that's been in the works for about 4 to 5 months. He revealed to press via Zoom on Friday. But he says that the intent, anyway, as he sees it, is to have the team stay in Vancouver and for him to lead the club into the next phase. And so what really is that next phase? No one knows really. Fans are scared that they're going to lose their team, but without a soccer specific stadium, they're having trouble, staying in Vancouver. So they don't get, that revenue from home games at BC Place, and they have no concrete tenancy, basically no home after December 31st, 2025. Relocation cannot be ruled out. So, like I said, Ananda, they don't play in their own stadium. Just this season, they were forced to host a home playoff game against Portland in Portland because they had their home booked for a Supercross event. So, in terms of the assets owned by the Whitecaps, they're not in a good seat. They don't, like I said, they don't own their stadium. They own part of their training center, the National Soccer Development Center at UBC. They put up $15 million of their own dough to get that open. And they have exclusive rights there until 2037. But if they don't have a home to play at, it's kind of like null and void, right? So, like I mentioned, the contract between the Whitecaps and BC Place expires at 2025. So there is some time to go ahead and find a solution. But a lot of people are saying that relocation is going to be cheaper than keeping the team there because they might have to build a stadium. Who knows what they might have to do to keep this team there. So it's a big off season for the Whitecaps. They don't have a coach. They don't have a stadium, it looks like, and they might not have a home. So good luck to them. I mean, no one wants to see a team down that bad. I mean, beat them on the field, but, it kind of sucks when stuff like this that's non-sporting happens, right?
So all to say that we should appreciate Uncle Phil and AEG as being our owners, Rob?
Hey, you need to slow down and pump your brakes on that one. I don't know. Like, I'm not gonna say appreciate them. Like, yes, they're dropping that dollar. Yes, but
Yeah, they
let's
definitely
say
do. I'll give them that.
let's say that due to this, that there's are definite pros to the Phil Anshin's group that of owners here for the LA Galaxy. It could be a lot worse. They could be looking to sell the team because they just don't have the ambition for it. So anyway, guys, we'll give you updates on how this one plays out. World Cup draws have been made for 2030 and 2034. Morocco, Portugal, and Spain will host in 2030 with one-off celebration matches that are celebratory centenary matches in Argentina, Paraguay, and Uruguay. It'll be the first time a World Cup is played in 3 continents and the first time in 20 years that the World Cup returns to Africa. Morocco, of course, being the African nation there that's hosting. They are currently building the world's largest football stadium for the 2030 World Cup, Ananda, the Hassan II Stadium. I believe we have an image of that one next here. Yeah, man, it looks crazy. It's like a whole tent city. There's like basketball courts and like theaters in there and everything like that. So anyway, man, that one's kicking off in 2030, and then you'll be interested to know, Ananda, because you'll probably be right there, boots on the ground. David Escude, Barcelona city councilor, said that in the 2030 World Cup, either the opening match or the final will be played at the Camp Nou. So either the final or the opening match of the 2030 World Cup will be played in Barcelona, confirmed by Barcelona city councilor David Escude. Of course, 4 years later, Saudi Arabia has already been granted hosting rights in 2034. Of course, they were granted hosting rights because nobody put up a bid against them. That's 2 World Cups in the Middle East since 2022. Of course, Qatar was awarded the World Cup in 2010, and they staged the last edition of the tournament. In total, the country is investing in 11 new stadiums ahead of the tournament, and they're spending a bunch of money on them. The King Salman Stadium will become the largest capacity stadium in Saudi Arabia when it completes in 2029, and it'll hold 92,000 fans. Well, looking forward to that World Cup. Depending on who you ask, depending on human rights violations and all that kind of stuff, you may or may not be there. But keeping it going here with the announcements. Outlaws, shout out to them. Man, they always do work around this time of the holidays, and I mean, just year round, really. Shout out to Manny and the boys. But this holiday season, they were able to donate 600 toys in East LA, Long Beach, and in Wilmington. They were also able to donate brand new Puma soccer balls to Jefferson High and Carson High. Shout out to the boys at Outlaws, man, doing their thing real big. This is one that we're unfortunately we have to bring you. Hopefully, you G's can get out there and support G's. This one was brought to us by 12 Threads and ACB. Unfortunately, a fellow G passed recently, Jordan Fernandez, and they're doing a fundraiser for his funeral costs. A food sale was actually held a couple of days ago, but since we didn't have the info before then, if you weren't able to help out, if you didn't know about this before, you can still make donations by Zelle at the phone number on the screen, 714-683-7153. Jordan Fernandez, gone too soon, too young, 31 years old. Rest in power, G. Once a G, always a G. Hope you're enjoying La Sex up there in El Cielito, Papa. Jalen Neal was on the show a couple weeks ago, and he teased a futsal tournament. And we bring you these announcements like the one previous, to emphasize the Jeets community and how close it is, and these are one of the events that show how close this community is. Jalen Neal is taking it upon himself with the city of Lakewood and the Galaxy Foundation to throw a futsal tournament there in his hometown. There's going to be 3 age divisions. This one going down on December 21st, and then the second round is on December 22nd. Go ahead and check out more information at lakewoodcity.org/futsal tournament. Congratulations to the LA Galaxy medical staff. They've been named the PSATS Medical Staff of the Year. Congratulations to them. A far cry from last year when it seemed like everybody was getting injured, right? Ananda?
Yeah.
You put me on this one. You let me know that there are now updates and restocks in the LA Galaxy Team LA store. The 6-star patch is there for $10 now. The MLS Cup final patch is there for $15. As far as I know, at the moment, the team store is open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 5, and open almost every day till Christmas Day. And of course, call ahead and check on hours. Nelson Ariaza, who's in the Galaxy Discord there for Corner of the Galaxy, shout out Podfather, did mention that they got restocked on scarves, pennants, and tumblers today. So if that's what you're looking for, go ahead and hit it up. If you're looking for other Galaxy gear, guys, Nostalgia CF just released their 1st to 6 shirt. I believe, Ananda, that these are the G's from Retros y Rarezas, who are making some stuff under a different name. I could be wrong on that, or maybe they're just partnering. Who knows? But either way, go ahead and get out Nostalgia CF, who's putting out this 1st to 6 shirt. This one's $35, man, and it's clean. It looks really, really clean. If you go in there, like in Zoom and click, I believe this is stitching on everything. So yeah, man, $35. Go ahead and get that one. GCam says he just got this one today. So GCam, you're gonna have to let us know what you thought of the shirt and the stitching and everything like that. I mean, GCam says they have really rad stuff. I agree. Retros is killer. Or I don't know if you're talking about Nostalgia CF specifically, but yeah, man, everything associated that I've seen with Retros has been killer. And staying on Galaxy gear, the blue, white, and gold pop-up was yesterday at the time of this recording, and it was killer, like it usually is, man. And on that, we missed you out there, man. Me and baby girl were out there. We're like, hey, we miss Anandita and your Minister of Finance, who was over there in Spain with you. But yeah, man, it was a beautiful day as usual. Shout out to Luis Vela. Of course, you see me rocking the Carson Galacticos hat, and shout out to 1-2. Of course, we got that champions job finished shirt. And shout out to the Minister of Finance who let me cop. So anyway, shout out to everybody that was there. It was like I said, a really, really fun event. Can't wait for the next one. So and hopefully you'll be back by then. And more Galaxy merch, or this isn't even really merch. This is wearables, really. I don't even know what you would call this, but the Galaxy is throwing a championship tattoo event on Saturday, December 21st from 12 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. at Joy Studio, LA. If you make an appointment, they'll send you that address. Tattoos range from $80 to $150. And we have a couple of images on those, what those could look like on the next screen. So go ahead and book your appointment if you've been thinking about getting a Galaxy tattoo. At some moment, Ananda will flash that. But anyway, there we are. So anyway, guys, you have 1 by 1, 1.5 by 1.5, and 2.5 by 2.5. Go ahead and hit up your appointment so you can get your tattoo. The Digs is getting an update. The construction begins at the Dignity Health Sports Parks to begin elevating that fan experience and the premium seats and spaces. The 21-year-old stadium will undergo a 4-year upgrade plan, and it's starting this summer here. The first phase of construction is set to be completed in February ahead of the new season. Renovations included design and construction elements, including the reseating of the entire lower bowl, restroom renovations, refacing concession stands, and upgraded premium seats. So really, you're going to see the bulk of that in the field side. West seats, the West Terrace Cabana, and the Platinum seats, guys. So as the years go by, the Galaxy are investing a little bit more money into their home, into the Dig. So I can't wait to see what they do next year, guys. Yeah. This is I don't know if this is an exclusive or just maybe just like a quick peek at what's going to be happening. I believe we can confirm now that the CVI is happening from February 7th to February 14th, and we have from San Diego FC Senior Vice President Sebastian Marua, who revealed that they were going to be participating in that tournament. So I mean, I'd be very surprised if those dates are wrong. We will go ahead and confirm on 100% once we have an official confirmation, but it does look like your CVI dates are February 7th to February 14th. Speaking of San Diego, the new season schedule drop is happening, and we already know that the Galaxy will begin their season with San Diego's first ever game in their inaugural season on February 22nd or 23rd at the Dig. So it'll be Galaxy versus San Diego, an all-California affair there to open the season for the Galaxy. The rest of the schedule will drop on Thursday, December 19th. It'll be interesting to see who the Galaxy play, guys. Galaxy played Inter Miami at home this year, so it might be Inter Miami away. Is there going to be a rematch with the New York Red Bulls at the Digs? Who knows? But the season will drop on Thursday, and then you can start making your travel plans. Guys, we will have our guest here, Alex Ruiz, on in just a second. Then we're going to ask him a couple of questions about the schedule drop. But before we bring him on, one last update here: the Campeones Cup MLS Champ is the Campeones Cup is happening in September, and that'll be the MLS Champ versus the Liga MX Champ. So far, it looks like it's shaping up to be Galaxy versus Club America. Of course, Club America just won the Apertura, their third straight title in a row. If they win the Clausura, they would qualify directly and face the Galaxy in September. If for some reason there's another Clausura champ, they play Club America for the right to play the Galaxy in the Campeones Cup in September. And now, speaking of campeones, I want to bring on a campeón for damn sure. A campeón, a writing campeón, a tweeting campeón, a campeón overall, man, with these Galacticos videos that he's been doing with you, man. You guys, please welcome back to the show the man that launched 1,000 tweets, the man behind the Galactic Tribune, and one half of Los Galacticos, el profe Alex Ruiz. ¿Cómo estás, don Alejandro?
Hey guys, so glad to be back on here. It's been a while since I've been on the podcast, so really excited, like a live show. I'm really excited to be out here, talk all things off season, just have a good discussion, especially, now that the new season's up and running.
Yeah, man. And we haven't had a chance to officially wish you congratulations for your birthday, just recently passed a couple of weeks ago. So please, Lacuna Galaxiana family, send this man a lot of love for his birthday. He does take cash donations and cars and all that kind of stuff. So if you want to bless him, you know where to do it. Profe, we just announced that this schedule is going to drop on Thursday. Is there anybody in particular that you would like to see come to the Digs next year?
I mean, it's interesting, right? Because you'd expect MLS to kind of, switch it up a bit here and there, but a lot of times, you kind of play the same teams. You kind of, don't really see that balance of opponents coming in here. But I think the one team I'd be interested on the Eastern Conference side to come here to Los Angeles, I personally think it would be interesting would be Columbus, because you got two of the best possession-based teams going at it. Hopefully you still have Cucho Hernandez. Hopefully you still have, Will Fernandes at the helm of that club. But those are two teams that, love to play their own unique style of possession. And I think it would be fun to watch. Last time these two teams played, it was a road game, midweek game, last year, 2023 season. Galaxy rotated a lot of guys, so they weren't really playing their starters. So to be able to see a full 11 of the LA Galaxy and Columbus Crew, I think would be a fun match.
Yeah, you're definitely not wrong. Well, I mean, if Will Fernandes stays, then yeah, it'll be Nancy versus Greg Vanny, and two very, very high possession teams going head to head, and it'll be like you said, interesting to see who would come out on top in the possession stats in that one, and at the end of the day, who actually gets the win. But man, we haven't spoken since MLS Cup Day. It was a big day for both of us. I mean, we got to cover MLS Cup. It was magnificent. We walked out of there on cloud nine. After a week or more, what has it been, like a week and a half, 2 weeks since? Yeah, 2 weeks.
December 7th, 10 days. Yeah.
Damn, man, it's crazy. But after you've had time to calm down from the emotions of the Sixth Cup and everything like that, what was that day like for you, on reflection?
Yeah, I think it was, aside from just, I think, fun, just the atmosphere of MLS Cup. Obviously, there was a lot of media members there, so it felt like a huge event. The fans were amazing. You obviously had a huge contingent of Red Bull fans there. So it really did feel like a big game. I mean, I wish this game would have been played at night. I think it would have maybe elevated the atmosphere, made the experience feel a little bit more special. But nonetheless, I mean, it was just a storybook season, storybook ending for the year. I feel like if you were to, put this LA Galaxy team, it would make a great, squad if you're for a TV show, right? Because you have a great amount of characters, good coaches, good story. I mean, everything just lined up perfectly. It felt so Hollywood. And, looking back at that day, I think it definitely felt for a lot of fans, and a lot of people involved within the LA Galaxy, like the 10-year wait, it felt special, getting back there, kind of be able to feel that taste of glory again, because the Galaxy up to that point, um, you know, during their last championship, 2014, they had won in 2011, won in 2012, won in 2014. It felt like you might have taken that feeling for granted, having a 10-year drought and then having, winning it at home, winning it, obviously with some emotion, considering, your best player was out for that game. There were some really special and historic players this campaign. So it just felt really special, and it just felt very, like a good ending of a movie, and I think everybody was happy with the performance. Everybody was happy with the season. And, now it's a new year. You got to flip it to a new chapter. This season definitely will be a lot more interesting for sure.
Yeah, back to work for sure.
Yeah.
Well, you know what the score is, Profe. One word reaction for the Galaxy's performance on the day, on MLS Cup Day.
One word. I don't know if I could put in one word, maybe two, but I
Two's
just
fine.
felt
Let's go
like,
two.
yeah, or I just say a saying. I'm sorry for expanding it, but it just felt like the nail in the coffin to like for all their opponents. You had Joseph Paintsel all year long talking about how he wanted to kill these other teams, how he wanted
Yep.
to set up that killer mentality, right? And then he did it. He stood on business. He meant it. He put the final nail in the coffin for the Red Bulls by opening up the scoring. So he definitely stood on business from what he's been talking about all year. He didn't shy away from it, and he definitely, when the moment mattered most, showed that killer instinct that the LA Galaxy have been missing for years.
Yeah, man, and it was gratifying to see Joseph Payne still kind of take that mantle, man, because a lot of people had been saying, he's been missing a lot. Is he the same after that injury? But yeah, man, it was a beautiful day, and we actually got to sit next to each other and watch this match. Shout out Justin Ruderman, whose photo this is. But man, the lead up to this, I mean, you can even see the smoke here in this photo was electric. Did you have a favorite moment of the day, whether it was in the match or post match, while you were interviewing and getting sprayed with champagne? What was the one thing that stuck out to you, when you're a 90-year-old man on your deathbed and you're like, my first MLS Cup, like this is what I remember from it?
I think just the pure joy and fun of everybody in the locker rooms. We obviously this year haven't been able to go into the locker room, so this is kind of our first time kind of going in there this year. You just got to see how connected the LA Galaxy as a team are. You got to see all the personalities. Ricky Puig and Diego Fagundes being party animals, and I'm sure they had a great night that night. You saw like some of the younger guys, Jalen Neal, Mauricio Cuevas, those guys just really taking in the moment, enjoying it. You had Mark Delgado, who's very calm, very astute, but he definitely was a little bit more loose than usual, celebrating in that locker room. I definitely remember my interview with him. And then, just seeing what it meant to people, Gabriel Peck next to Juninho, as they're both kind of watching celebrations, knowing how important Juninho was for Peck kind of establishing himself in the U.S. And then, Miro Garces, I kind of saw him on the floor calling his friends and family back in Colombia as the celebrations are going on. He's been living here in LA alone, so it was good to kind of see him kind of talk with his family after such a special moment. And, we got to chat with him as well, and he definitely is enjoying himself in LA. And, again, just the celebration, seeing, Yoshida and Royce winning their first league titles, right? Winning their first major trophies for their clubs. So, I mean, everyone, it just felt euphoric in that locker room, and I'm pretty sure that it's going to be some experience that I'm not going to forget, because, next year they're going to be in a different mode, not just trying to prove themselves, but trying to, be able to still prove themselves with the target on their back.
Yeah, no, it's crazy how much things are going to change. I mean, we're going to get into it all. But yeah, I mean, this team as we know it is going to be different next year. I mean, it's already a possibility that they could be losing a couple of players. I mean, we've already shown a thank you to one player. But before we get into all that good stuff, really quick, man, I wanted to get your thoughts or your comments on the viewership in MLS Cup. I mean, you and I, and Ananda were there. That's a shot for Ananda, by the way. We were all there in person, so we didn't see it on TV. And apparently, not a lot of other people did either, because there's a lot of criticism on this Apple deal now, because according to TV and streaming numbers, the MLS Cup final between the Galaxy and Red Bulls was watched only by approximately 533,000 viewers. In its 29-year history, that's a new low for the MLS Cup final. The previous worst was in 2010 when 748K watched it. They are reporting that viewership is down 47% from last year across Fox and Fox Deportes, and that's even less than the 967, almost 968,000 that watched the NWSL Championship final on CBS. So, guys, this is not looking good. I mean, per Nielsen, including Apple, it only drew 714K viewers. So not looking good for this deal, this viewership deal. Well, what are you guys thinking here? Is there a fix? Is there a way forward? What do you think, Prophet Alex? Open it up for more free games, better promotions, stagger time slots, like Ananda. Alex, what are you thinking here? Alex, let's go ahead and start with you, man.
Yeah, I think there's two things to keep in mind with this. Number one is, the other things you're going up against that Saturday. It was championships Saturday in college football, right? You had the SEC championship, all the other championship games going on, big games all across the country. And look, college football already has a foothold in this country. It's probably the biggest sport, got the most following. Obviously, if you go to a college that has a good football program, you're going to be paying attention to your school and how they do. So definitely, I think a lot of the eyes were on that instead. The other thing too, so interesting, is just because Apple doesn't, release their numbers, I'm interested to see how many people watched it on Apple last year compared to this year, because we're only looking at the Fox numbers here. And if you're assuming the Apple deal is working, right, you're going to get more people to use that program, use that way to kind of watch the game as their main way. I know I haven't watched many Fox broadcasts whenever that option's there, because Fox does broadcast some MLS games. Personally, I haven't, gone to Fox. I still stay with Apple, whether it's, English or Spanish that I watch it, and I still stay with Apple. And I wonder if, comparing it to last year, where do you have more people under the Apple tent kind of watching the game or whatnot? But it's definitely interesting. And I think there's a lot of, in my opinion, I think there's a lot of problems with the Apple deal. There's a lot of things I really don't like about it. My main thing is, hey, if you want to keep MLS a very niche league in this country, the Apple deal is perfect for it, because you have a spot just for the people that are interested in it. If you want to grow the game, grow the sport, putting it on the airwaves is the best way to go. It might not be the sexiest and, bring in the most flattering ratings, but if you want to get casuals and just people channel surfing, that's the best way.
Anandita, ¿qué crees tú, man? There's people that will defend the deal and say that, that it's brought clear improvements. Broadcast quality is better, accessibility worldwide is better, no blackout restrictions. Don Garber himself even says, that at some point, if they find that they're wrong on this deal, that they won't hesitate to figure out what they need to do to go forward. One interesting thing that I found is that overall playoff viewership was up around 50% from 2023 to 2024. So maybe MLS Cup itself didn't generate that many viewers, but apparently the playoffs themselves did. What do you think on this deal? Do you think it's too soon to tell, or do you have a way to fix this, man?
Yeah, just to pick up on Alex's points, I think in theory or on paper, it seems like the right deal in terms of, people moving or content moving to streaming platforms as a overall general trend. But as Alex was mentioning, sort of the niche popularity of MLS, if you're trying to get it more to the mainstream platform. And here's the other thing, guys. It's like, you've got the perfect at-bat right now, Messi as the face of your league. Like, this is the time to strike. Like, if you don't do this now, you probably won't do it at all, right? And he's got another couple of years left on his deal. I don't know exactly the terms of his deal, which is guaranteed and which is not, but this is the at-bat that you want. This is the best at-bat that you want, the biggest global soccer superstar in the world. And, Israel mentioned it in the chat, which is in terms of the advertising around like MLS in general, outside of course, like cookies and like, of course, I'm going to search for MLS terms all day, right? But other than that, like, I don't really see a lot of advertising or a lot of push in places that I would expect, right? Whether I'm surfing on YouTube with this account, and I search MLS stuff all the time. So of course I'm going to get fed stuff, but outside of that, I really don't see a lot of it, whether it's, what is it called, like sort of push or pull tactics. I don't really see much of it. And the other thing, I saw a really interesting thread about people were saying, and this is a really interesting idea, and I'm sensitive to this because I used to have NBA League Pass, which was following each team. This is again sort of doubling down on that niche idea. A lot of people probably watch their teams, but probably won't watch anything else. So can we reduce the friction of the paywall to sort of have an a la carte option for the team, right, for your local market? That could be an interesting solve as well. Again, I think it's a lot of different things, Rob, but the reality is they've got a sick at bat and they're not doing a good job of it.
Well, Don Garber, you've heard from Alex and Ananda. Get to work, Papa, because it doesn't seem like it's really working for Apple. It doesn't seem like it's really working for the league. I did read that they haven't hit that benchmark to go ahead and start revenue share. And it's interesting because we seem to have two different kind of viewpoints on this deal here. GCAM says make MLS Pass more affordable, promote the shit out of it, don't drown us with Messi, because with the Messi down the throat thing does eventually get tiring. And then Alexis P says your playoff games don't get bounced from championship volleyball. So that's right. Pro for the Apple deal is that you're not going to get bounced, right?
It's a good idea from Yasmin.
Show low resolution games free and high def for Pit. Hey, I like it. I mean, there are no bad ideas here. I mean, we'll make sure and send it over to Don Garber, who we know for sure watches this show religiously.
Well, and the other thing to think about too is, Rob, you made the point last time we were talking to Mike Arujo on the show, which is, or maybe it was a couple times before that, but you talked about sort of the entry point to even just experiencing an MLS game live. Remember I feel like we've got to think about who our audience is, right? This is the audience that'll take a family of 4 to Dignity Health Sports Park to watch a game with parking and some food, maybe for $100, flat, versus, going to a Lakers game or another major league. And so like the paywall thing, I feel like that concept should adapt also to the paywall. So I think all these ideas are really good to make it, again, less friction and more affordable for, who the paying customer is. And, MLS has got to think about that for sure.
Well, one of the properties that they will be showing is the League's Cup. Yes, it's back. Your favorite tournament is back, everybody. And we have unconfirmed format updates, but it seems to be like they're going to be implemented coming from the source. Per Mikel Arriola, executive president of Liga MX, this year's tournament will be played during the summer. From July 29th to August 31st, 2025. Games will be played midweek, and they will now adopt a Champions League style format, which had me question, will this be the new Champions League style format or the old Champions League style format? But they're doing this for a couple reasons, guys. They're doing this so the Mexican teams don't have to camp out in the U.S. in a home zone, and they don't have to fly back and forth so often. That also means that neither league will pause and matches will take place during the regular season of both seasons. So there'll be, hopefully the season will end for MLS sooner as well, because you're not going to have that pause in the middle of the season. Of course, 3 CONCACAF Champions Cup berths are up for grabs. The champions, the second and the third place, will all get a Champions Cup berth. And speaking of the Champions Cup, the draw was just had last week, guys. I believe that was on Tuesday. The Galaxy earned a direct bye to the round of 16. This will be the club's 11th appearance and first since the 2015-2016 edition. Their best finish, of course, came in 2000 when they were champions. The Galaxy's opponent will be either Real Salt Lake or CS Herediano. The first leg will be on Wednesday, March 5th, and the first leg away. And then they'll play the winner of Herediano and Real Salt Lake on Wednesday, March 12th at home. Of course, RSL and will travel to Costa Rica for leg 1 on Wednesday, February 19th. They'll be in Salt Lake to receive Herediano on February 26th. So by February 26th, we will know who the Galaxy's first Champions Cup opponent is. So go ahead and stick with us. We'll go ahead and get you guys more updates on that one. We did hear from former U.S. men's national team defender Jonathan Bornstein, who said the side of the bracket and the Galaxy's form makes them a favorite. Profe Alex, what are you thinking about this draw? Did you have any initial reactions to this?
I mean, I thought it was interesting. Honestly, I think the LA Galaxy. I think the LA Galaxy probably have one of the harder sides of the bracket. To be honest, I mean, you have America recently won the Liga MX, right, 3 years in a row. You've got Seattle, and we know they're a tough opponent as well. Tigres, obviously a high spending team in Mexico, and Salt Lake or Cincinnati, one of those teams. In that kind of area of the bracket, I mean, they can cause some troubles for the LA Galaxy. So they're definitely going to run the gauntlet for CONCACAF Champions Cup, but hey, that's what you want to face, the best of the best. And I think the Galaxy, when it comes to talent, it's going to keep them in those games. It's going to keep them alive. Obviously, it's a long way till then, and we have no idea what the roster is going to look like, if there's going to be any surprises, things like that. I think it's a little too early to kind of say if the Galaxy are favorites or not, but personally, I think that they can definitely make it to the quarterfinals. Semifinals will be definitely a tough task. I don't know if they would advance it there, but I can definitely see this team for sure making it to at least the bare minimum, the quarterfinals.
Yeah, and there's a long way to go until this final on Sunday, June 1st. Who knows if the Galaxy will even get there? But yeah, I mean, I think you're right. There's a couple of tough teams on their side of the bracket. And I think it's a little bit better than say LAFC side of the bracket, who would have to see Columbus and Inter Miami on their way to the final. But the Galaxy would in their quarterfinals, they would be up against teams like Tigres, FC Cincinnati, Nicaragua's Esteli, and Honduras's Motagua. And then of course they are on that collision course with America in the semis, which could be a preview to the Campeones Cup in September that we did mention. So that leads us to this interesting query right here, guys. The tournament here, the Leagues Cup and the Champions Cup and everything like that, is the Galaxy are going to be in a bunch of tournaments. They have the potential to participate in 5 tournaments next year. Most likely it'll be 4. We don't know whether they're going to be participating in the US Open Cup. Most likely they will not be. So they'll be most likely participating in the Leagues Cup, the Champions Cup, MLS, or the league, and then the Campeones Cup, which is a one-off. So really it's 3 dedicated tournaments that they're going to have to navigate, right? So this is the important question here, guys. What tournament win, Alex, makes this the start of a new Galaxy dynasty? Like, do they need to go out and win the league again to be considered a dynasty, or do they need to pick up a Champions Cup, or maybe even do a double on one of these?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like a lot of people say CONCACAF Champions Cup, but for me, I'm going to go with MLS. We can be back-to-back champions, given how hard it is in this league, given it's a salary cap league, given the turnaround that a lot of teams face, and just given the fact that, it's so hard to repeat, and the last team to do it was the LA Galaxy. If you really want to double down on cementing yourself in MLS history, this is how you do it. This is how you be remembered, not just as a good team, but like you kind of create your own era, right? Like you had the Donovan era, Beckham era. Now you got, the Ricky Puig, Joseph Paintsel era of the LA Galaxy. You can genuinely establish an era and, become a dynasty. And we know how hard that is for MLS teams to do that. I think it's going to be so hard for the LA Galaxy to repeat. But I mean, if you can do it, you've cemented yourself in legacy for a long time, maybe a bit longer than winning a Champions Cup. But I personally believe that if it would be more impressive to win MLS Cup again than it would be CONCACAF Champions Cup.
Chat. Let us know what you think. Let us know what tournament the Galaxy should prioritize, or if you think they should just say we're going for all of it. It's not realistic for me anyway that they go for all of it just because of the financial restrictions and the depth and stuff like that. But I definitely think that they have a shot at winning a couple of these tournaments here. Anandita, what about you, man? Do you agree with Prof. Alex and think that the league is a priority? Repeat there, and you're starting that dynasty that the Galaxy want, or do you are you putting one of these other tournaments more stock in one of those?
I think I agree with Alex overall, as from a fan's perspective, in that a a dynasty or a legacy can be brought through success in the league. And we've seen that historically, right? With the Galaxy, that's how they made their name. Whether it's through supporter shields, less so, but more so MLS Cup. So I definitely agree with that sentiment. Here's the other thing too, guys, from a practical perspective, I think the league overall should be the priority because the biggest wild card next year is going to be the return of Ricky Puig and how he's going to return for Ricky Puig. Because let's be real, at least for me, from my perspective, to be competitive in all those cups and all those competitions, you need a healthy and fit Ricky Puig. Like, he is a difference maker in all those games, right? So if you don't have him, I think it'll be hard it will compete and will be competitive, but I think it'll be harder for us to advance, especially, you guys know how cup games are. They're very tight. They can get very cagey. Sometimes you need that moment of magic. You need that moment of brilliance from a player like Ricky Puig. So I think his exclusion from the team, and again, remember, Josh, according to the Galaxy, always talks about DP utilization. He's one of our DPs. So taking that chess piece out of your roster for a good chunk of the season, especially when all these competitions are happening, it's going to be really tough, man. And again, Will Kuntz has his work cut out for him, and we'll talk about the roster and stuff later. But I think from a practical perspective, probably the league should be prior, because maybe you can peak at the right time, like Portuguese Hammer always says, get a healthy Ricky Puig back, sort of build up his fitness, build up his form and his on pitch, just playing time and stuff like that, and get him to a point where we can be good for MLS Cup. Get that home court advantage for as much as possible. So I think from a practical perspective, that's my early thought on it, Rob. I think we can be competitive in all competitions, but to win it's going to be tough without Ricky.
Interesting thoughts, gents. One of the first things that I think, and this is piggybacking on what you're saying, Ananda, is that Ricky, who knows when he's going to be back, but everybody knows that the timetable for an ACL tear of this kind is usually around 6 to 9 months, right? And let's say in a worst case scenario, it does take the 9 months, and of course he's going to have to play himself back into fitness, start training and all that kind of stuff. This League's Cup is going to be over by August 31st, right? So realistically, I don't think you prioritize that tournament because Ricky's not going to be back. If you make a deep cup run without him, so be it. That's awesome. But I don't think that they're going to be prioritizing that tournament. So what does that leave us with? It leaves us with the league and the Champions Cup, right? Again, because of the whole Ricky thing, I think it's kind of hard to know their intention. I think once we start seeing how this roster is going to start shaping up, we will know a little bit further on if they're going to really go for the Champions Cup, right? Because if they don't add a lot of pieces, then obviously they're not going to have the depth, or they shouldn't technically have the depth to make the deep run. And so if they don't add a lot of pieces, that, hey, the priority is the league. Priority is to go ahead and shore up what you have in the league with that core that you have, and try to maybe write it out. Who knows if to bring somebody in. Like you said, Ananda, we'll talk about that here in a moment. But if I get what you guys are saying with the, it's extremely difficult to repeat in the league. I believe, it's probably one of the hardest things to do in American sports anyway, just because of the fact that there's so many teams now, the financial restrictions and everything like that. But in my heart of hearts, I want that Champions Cup. I'm still salty about the Galaxy not going to the Club World Cup and them getting that spot stolen from them, their rightful place stolen from them. And so I want to see them at a Club World Cup. And what's the most likely way to do that is to win the CONCACAF Champions Cup, right? And so, selfishly, I'm like, no, I want them to win the Champions Cup because I want to see them in a Club World Cup. But I honestly, I'd be happy with them winning either or. I think that the Champions Cup, and this is where I push back on Profe Alex a little bit. I think it's kind of the bracket, Profe, because if you think about it, they're already in the round of 16, right? In the quarterfinals, like I mentioned, they would be playing either Tigres Cincinnati, Esteli, or Motagua. The strong team there, obviously, is Tigres. All the other teams, I believe the Galaxy, on paper at the very least, can beat. So, if you get that matchup against Tigres in the quarterfinals, obviously that one's difficult. But if you play any one of those other three teams, it's a good bet that you're making the semifinals. And if you're playing Club America, maybe that's where the dream dies. But I think it's possible. I mean, there's only 3 games after that round of 16. So I mean, I think it's possible. I think it's doable, depending on how that bracket or who makes it through. And like I said, for selfish reasons, I just want to see them win that cup.
And if I'm not mistaken, guys, that would be sort of, we would have the summer transfer window or the mid-season transfer window at around that time, maybe to bolster the roster if need be, right? When we get into those later stages of Campeones Cup Champions Cup.
Well, I know that
so.
I know the finals in June.
Finals on July June, right?
Okay.
And usually this
Okay.
one opens in July.
Never mind.
Yeah,
Yep.
so you kind of have to do all the roster moves now and kind of lock that in now, because that's
Exactly.
the team that's set for that run. And again, you're going against Club America, again, 3-time winners of Liga MX,
Right.
Cruz Azul, who, sure, they didn't make the final, but they came off a historic season last year, and Tigres, a team that historically has always, performed well in this competition. So,
right.
I mean, you're going to have to go through I think, like I said earlier, the hardest part of the bracket right there for me. It's just those 3 teams are going to scare you. They're going to give you nightmares. And with that Ricky Poo, it's just kind of like, I don't know. The chances aren't
that's
as,
where I am too.
as big as they used to be.
Well, the biggest team you would see in the quarterfinals is Tigres, and I agree that's a difficult match. We do have GCAM saying that Tigres is rebuilding, trying to bring in younger guys. Their older stars are on their way out. I can't lie, I don't know much about Tigres and about their operation, and to say like yes or no. But
They are
I
rebuilding,
do know
but the thing is, they have so much money to spend.
Right.
And then compared to any MLS team, they're going to spend more than any MLS team. So that's my thing. If they can get their combination of signings right, like we saw last year with the LA Galaxy, you can definitely become a behemoth in whatever league you're playing in.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest stumbling block for the Galaxy getting through. If they face Tigres there in the quarterfinals, it'll be tough. Of course, if they face Club America there in the semifinal, that'll be even tougher. But I mean, just think about the money for the club as well. I think I heard it's like 50 mil or something like that if they win the CONCACAF Champions Cup. So I mean, just a bunch of money coming in for the club as well. Guys, it is an interesting proposition there, because all these tournaments mean that the team needs to build in such a way that they are competitive, right? And like you guys say, they have to basically get the signings right if they're in this window, if they're going to make a run at the Champions Cup. With all that in mind, the Galaxy has already started moving. So team roster decisions were the first thing that we were handed down. So Ananda, if you please, the Galaxy have 19 players under contract for 2025. I'll save you guys reading this entire thing. Basically, it boils down to the Galaxy exercise options on Jalen Neal, Mark Delgado, Tucker Lepley, Isaiah Parente, and Gino Vivi. They decline options on Brady Scott and Martin Cáceres, and they are still talking to Brady Scott about a new contract, still talking to Maya Yoshida and Eric Zavaleta about new contracts. But the big takeaway here is that the first Galaxy player of their 2024 championship squad has gone. Martin Cáceres is the first player to leave the Galaxy. Gracias, Pelado, indeed. This is something that that is kind of good and bad for the Galaxy, right? Because you're missing out on that experience, but you also take that $657K off the books that he was making, right? So that gives you a little bit more wiggle room. Like I mentioned, Maya, Eric Zavaleta, and Brady Scott are in negotiations. Their salaries were almost $900K for Maya, $90K for Eric Zavaleta, and Brady Scott at $111K. Profe Alex, all year you've heard Novak Mikovic wants to be number one. There was even a moment in the season where he was left at home because he was agitating to become number one. Brady Scott is now out of a contract. They're negotiating with them. How much more important does Brady Scott getting re-signed to become if Novak Mikovic does in fact leave the Galaxy? Or do you even see him leaving the Galaxy? Do you think it's a non-starter? Do you think they paid, $1 million or whatever it is they paid for him, and yeah, he's been agitating for it, but he's going to stay?
Yeah, I think definitely you have to stay with the investment of Mitrovic. Like you said, Rob, you invested around $1 million for this goalkeeper, a guy with a lot of upside, a guy that a lot of the coaches on the LA Galaxy coaching staff really like. And from what I've heard, he's definitely since that incident, not really been the guy that's bringing down the locker room. Right, he's learned his lesson from that. He's definitely a guy who does see an opportunity to continue playing, to be able to win the starting job. Again, I think Will Kuntz has said this on the record before, but he wasn't expecting John McCarthy to kind of have the season he had this year, where, he was among the top 10 goalkeepers in the league when it came to, some of the advanced metrics. But, I think that Mitrovic's time is going to come. Look, the Alex are going to rotate with all their competitions that we highlighted earlier. There's going to be playing time for Mitrovic. I think at some point in this upcoming year, and this will kind of be one of my early predictions, I think Mitrovic is going to take the starting role by the time of the 2025. If the Galaxy make the playoffs, I'm pretty sure they will, but if, you never know. But I feel by that time he will be the starter. John McCarthy, as much as I really like the guy, I think he's funny, had a great, phenomenal season. If this feels more like a one-hit wonder year than it does like this is going to be John McCarthy for the rest of his career. And I think the Galaxy are going to want somebody who's going to be a little bit more, I don't know if this is harsh, but somebody a little bit more competent on the ball, right? Somebody who can kind of play those passes, kind of
Fair.
be that extra, ball playing goalkeeper. Yeah, exactly, as you guys mentioned. And I think Mitrovic definitely adds that to the LA Galaxy game. And look, you're not going to have Ricky Puig, who tends to get the ball pretty deep from his own center backs. I think having a goalkeeper who can play with the ball at his feet, kind of hit those passes with confidence and can do it most of the time, I think the Galaxy kind of have to start, and this is just my opinion, have to start a season with Mitrovic. I think he's got to be the guy off the bat. It's got to have a good preseason and got to be the guy in goal for the Galaxy once this new season comes up.
Rob, we've talked about
early predictions by El Profe.
I was going to say we've talked about on the show with Sophie as well. Is she's surprised in terms of the style of play from a goalkeeping perspective, in terms of how Greg wants to approach either breaking presses or ball progression from the goalkeeper, right? And we always say on the show, always be thrown, because his long kick percentage is atrocious, right? Let's just keep it a buck, right? But of course, John McCarthy makes up for that for all of his other attributes, by the way, on and off the pitch, right? And he's a great shot stopper, we know that. But I think Alex brings up a really interesting point, Robert. Maybe the conversation shouldn't be Mitrovic or Brady Scott. Maybe the conversation should be John McCarthy and the other two keepers. Because if you look at it from a salary perspective, it's kind of there's no really huge difference. I think I was just looking at it right now. Brady Scott makes about 110, and then Mitrovic is about 150. So you're only saving 40 there versus McCarthy, which is double their salary. So that is a pretty significant chunk. So I think Alex brings up a really interesting point. Yeah, maybe that's the conversation in terms of the starting spot.
And we do know that the Galaxy are trying to cut some budget, because according to the Podfather, according to Corner of the Galaxy, there's going to be an impact to this Galaxy budget next year. Obviously, Dejan is no longer a U22, so his salary is going to hit more against the cap. Gabriel Peck is no longer a young DP, which means his salary is also going to be against the cap. So according to the Podfather, that's almost $1 million in increased salary against the cap. So how do they make up that $1 million? Do they go ahead and sell somebody like John McCarthy to make up some of that salary? Because as Ananda mentioned, there's not that much of a drop off, and Galaxy did pay $1 million for Novak Mikovic. Do they go ahead and get rid of somebody like Maya Yoshida, who's making almost $900K a year? It's one of those things. I was asked a bunch of times yesterday at the Blue, White, and Gold pop-up, what do I think they're going to do with Maya Yoshida? And honestly, I have a head and a heart thing here, and Alex, like you tell me what you think they should do here. But my heart is like, yeah, man, the guy just won a title for your boyhood club. He played almost every single minute of the season. He's a warrior.
Only player to play 3,000 minutes in the regular season, so that's impressive.
Yeah, but the flip side of that is that he was the only player to play that many minutes, and blood is 37, right? So yeah. I mean, he's on $900K. He's probably going to want, and like Ananda said, keep it a buck, deserves a little bit more money as well. But the Galaxy just don't have it to give to him. If anything, they're looking to cut money. So, what do you think the Galaxy are going to do here, man? Are they, gonna look to sell on one of their bigger stars here, like Dayon, who is already generated European interest? Are they gonna, cut money another way, like with Maya? What do you think Will Kuntz' wizardry is gonna do? If you were Will Kuntz, put on your GM hat for a sec, what would you bust?
Yeah, so I guess this will be my addition for LA Galaxy GM in the future. But yeah, my thing with Yoshida is, one of the common phrases you hear about sports is you kind of want to, not be a year too late, right? And we kind of saw this a couple of years ago when you go back to Chicharito, again, former LA Galaxy captain, where, had a really good, was healthy all of 2022. Galaxy had a, semi-successful year getting back to the playoffs. He was productive that year, scoring a decent amount of goals, nothing not among the elite MLS scorers, but a decent amount of goals, good contributor, great guy in the locker room, right? But he had 2023 come in, not as productive, still on that DP salary. He eventually gets injured and misses the next year. And, since that injury, I've still been keeping tabs on him at Chivas de Guadalajara, and he's really not been that same guy. Like, the football's gone from him, essentially. So my thing is, yes. Yeah, okay, there we go. I'm glad you got that reference. But yeah, my thing here is just like, I feel the offer has to be, and this is going to be, if you're Will Kuntz, you have to, make it just 1 year minimum deal. Or if you're going to have the player option, you just have, in my opinion, looking at Yoshida and Chicharito, I think Yoshida is a bit more valuable given just the fact that he is a presence in the locker room. He has that, aura to command the team that not a lot of players have. He has that, he's older, he's wiser. And the thing too about Yoshida is that, he doesn't rely a lot on his physicality, on his physical attributes to be a good player. It's all the mental thing. So my thing is, the bare minimum you have to do is just, at that salary that he's making, kind of just offer the same deal. Take it or leave it. That's it for me, because you're getting job security for another year, or you're still making a decent amount. You're here living in LA. You're going to be able to still play with the team that, you won a championship with. And look, hey, you can appeal as much as you want to like let's run it back to those emotions. But if I'm Will Kuntz, I'm staying on that fence. I'm not inching anymore. The same salary he's at, if he takes it, great. If he doesn't, go to the market, use that money. Again, right now you kind of have to stay roster compliant. You have to be able to kind of get that money in other ways, open up some room, because again, I think the Galaxy are going to really try to target another midfielder to kind of add more depth to that position. I think that's a position that needs more depth than any other. Ricky's injury aside, I think you kind of do need to refresh it a little bit and set it up for the future. But yeah, I just think if you're Will Kuntz, you kind of have to set that line of, hey, we're not going to give you anything else than what you got last year. That's what I would do. And I don't know if that's going to be very popular among the chat, or if any real players, but that's what I would do. And if you want to see, you guys want to hear my raw kind of thoughts about it, that's it right there.
No, and you know what? I think last year with the Tyler Boyd sale, which was kind of emotional when it happened, and a lot of Galaxy fans were like, what is he doing? I think that you see that Will Kuntz is not that emotional executive who will say, well, he's a good guy. Tyler Boyd, of course, was a great guy, good locker room guy. He did produce, but at the end of the day, Will Kuntz saw an opportunity and he took it. Same kind of thing. Yeah, I think if Will Kuntz sees that opportunity, he will pull the trigger. I mean, lightweight. I mean, they kind of already did. I mean, the San Diego expansion draft just happened, guys, and Maya Yoshida was one of the three big names left unprotected. Of course, Diego Fagundes was another. Gaston Brugman was the other. Fortunately, no Galaxy players were selected in this draft. The amount of money that these three gentlemen make was kind of prohibitive to San Diego. But yeah, I mean, Maya's on 900K. Diego and Gaston, I believe Gaston is on a little less than $1 million. Diego's on a little more than $1 million. But yeah, that was kind of like the first indication for me that, they might be prepared to let Maya walk if the terms are right or the money's right, because they didn't protect him here. That's your captain, and you don't protect him. And really the only way I see that happening is because like you said, I mean, do they want to wait a year too late and find out, in the middle of the year that, Maya's breaking down?
Yeah. But Rob, on the flip side, I mean, if you look at it as like a like for like, Martin for Maya, you run it back with, here's your center back depth: Martin, Maya, Emito, Jalen, and Zabaleta. Let's say, he's only making like 80, 90K a year. I mean, you run it back, maybe you promote one of the academy kids, right, as sort of that, just a backup option in case you have an injury or something like that. I mean, I feel comfortable with that back line, man. That's pretty decent center back depth. And again, I was gonna say, and the other thing too is it affords a year for Jalen, because I think the future center back partnership is going to be Jalen and Amito, right? So as Alex said, giving him that 1 year deal, it allows Jalen to develop another year as he's coming back from the injury, right, and get him to where he was pre-injury. Because I mean, Jalen was a beast before that, right? And I think his injuries have really set him back.
Well, I do want to find out from Profe Alex about since we're on center backs, about Martin. Right option to let him go, to decline that contract?
Yeah, I think that was a no-brainer. I think even from the beginning of the year, that was the one thing I was already anticipating. That look, Martin Cáceres is definitely, I think at the start of this year when he was playing, you could kind of see he was a little less slow. Maybe decision making wasn't that great, and there just overall weren't that many impressive performances from Martin. But again, his impact mostly came within the locker room. He was definitely one of those culture guys, and you have a lot of the LA Galaxy players sending out messages to Martin, kind of saying how much they appreciate him. I know Miro Garces kind of called him his mentor, called him the guy that helped him acclimate to Los Angeles. Gave him some tips and tricks, things to kind of improve as a defender, because again, coming into the LA Galaxy, he was like a very, very raw prospect, and you kind of saw him mature, saw him kind of really develop his game, right? And I think Martin played a huge role in that. But yeah, again, this was going to be a move that was going to happen either way.
We do have some chatter about San Diego's jersey in the chat. I want to take a moment to say that yes, it is probably one of the most boring jerseys that I've ever seen for a debut kit. I have no problem saying that it's a glorified training kit. That's no shade to the homegirl Vicky Mercado out there in San Diego doing San Diego comms, but Vicky, come on, girl, like you should have said something. You know that's not hot. This jersey is not hot.
It looks like one of those generic kits when you create a club in the AFC,
Thank
right?
you.
It's exactly what I thought about. Like even the crest, everything about it. There's no aura, no vibes. This just feels like you just created a club in the AFC. This doesn't feel natural. Again, there's no aura, no connection to the city. I mean, you already had a club there, and you just basically put them out of business. MLS
to come up with this
entity thing. Yeah, exactly. And I just feel like they're going to end up more like Minnesota United those first couple of years than they are Atlanta United. That's my take.
Yeah, I mean, just so far, based on their picks there in the expansion draft, it's not looking that great. No shade to them. They've done a couple good things right. Like I love the way that they've set up their academy and how they're moving that forward. But yeah, the shirt's not hot. The picks weren't hot. And really, it's going to be one of those things where you go like, how bad will they be? Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully they're competitive and there's a real fun rivalry there, but it doesn't look like it so far. So Alex, put this GM hat back on. We've already told you Galaxy needs to make up $1 million in increased salary already. Where are they going to get that from? I mean, they've already gotten rid of Martin's contract, so that's what, 650. So you're looking to pick up another 350K. One of the things I thought about, Ananda, does this take into account that this was a championship year that means more money for the club, ticket sales through extra playoff games, concessions, merch, increased prize money through the league, if anything? I mean, we got to account for all of that. But Profe Alex, how do you come up with that 350K that the Galaxy need? Who are you selling? What are you doing? Are you looking for loans within the league? Take me through this, man.
Yeah, so these are kind of my 3 things, heading into this episode. I was thinking about like what would make sense, what is something that's realistic, what's something that we can kind of see, be able to kind of do things if you're Will Kuhn. So my number one thing is Don't forget about Johnny Perez, right? Still on loan in Nashville. Just, trigger that, make him a Nashville player. He's not going to get playing time, unfortunately, at this club. They're going to keep spending money at that position. Just get as much general allocation money as you can. Number 2, sell Dejan Joveljic. With 1 year remaining on his contract, you got to get something out of it. He's kind of,
big shot.
I wouldn't say he's kind of forced his way out or trying to force himself out of the club, but we've heard him linked to teams in Turkey, teams maybe a Europa League level type teams, right? Take that money. You got to do it. And I feel like, I know scoring goals is the hardest thing in this league, but I feel like it would be much easier to kind of buy a U22 striker again, kind of, again, if you're Greg Vanney, you already know what you kind of want. You already know how you want these players to play. Someone to be that day on replacement, that next U22 player, right? You still want to stay underneath that salary cap thing. And a third thing too, which might be a shocker, might be unpopular or not, but if I'm the LA Galaxy, if I'm Will Kuntz, I'm looking to, this would suck for this player, but I would be looking to trade Diego Fagundes. I mean, he's got some cachet in this league. He's a guy making a good amount of salary, right? I mean, even if you can just get like, a veteran MLS center back, right? Because if we're assuming Yoshida's not coming back, you at least want to add some more bodies in that position. Trade him for that. Trade him some general allocation money. That's what I would do. And those are those 3 things that I think can free up the most salary cap space for the LA Galaxy. And going back to the Dejan Joveljic sale, especially now with the new league rules, you're able to get, I think, $3 million in general allocation money, right? When it comes to sales overseas, before the maximum was 1.5 million.
Exactly.
So you got to take advantage of that. And again, this is not taking into account if there's any offers for Gabriel Peck and other players as well. But these, I think, are the 3 most realistic moves you would make. And those are the moves that I would make, quite frankly, if I were the general manager of the LA Galaxy.
You brought up Gabriel Peck here, right? And we'll end with this one because we do want to talk about Ricky and what the Galaxy might do here to replace him. But you mentioned Gabriel Peck, and I wasn't going to bring him up, but you did. He has a couple, reportedly a couple of transfer offers already. English Premier League clubs. The MLS record transfer is Miguel Miron, around 28 million. How much are you selling Gabriel Peck for? Like, how much is the non-starter? If they come to you with X number, you're like, get the F out of here. Like, there's no way. But they come to you with X number, and you're like, okay, now we can start talking. Minimum.
I think minimum. I mean, like I say, the bare minimum is just doubling your profits, right? They got it for 10 million, 20 million. But I mean, if you're the Galaxy, maybe try to push it 23. I don't think he's gonna break Almiron's record. But if I were them, like 22 million, sell him at Liverpool. Like, just do it. Just do it.
No, man.
No,
do not sell him to the Scousers for anything. I see you setting up your shade right there, Alex. Come on, man. You can't have him go to Liverpool, man. If anything, he seems actually, funnily enough, he seems tailor-made for an Arsenal team, right, Ananda?
Yeah, I mean, he'd be great Taka backup. But here's the thing, guys. Like, all the jokes aside, I just like, I'm thinking of him as a player developing, right? I think if I was his agent, I would try to, bump up his transfer value so much, because we've got a 2026 World Cup that he's trying to break into the Brazil team for. And I feel like the LA Galaxy, because I feel like if he gets transferred to overseas, I mean, we even saw Ramon Sosa, an ex Galaxy target of ours. He doesn't really play for Nottingham Forest. He just gets spare minutes here and there. I feel like LA Galaxy, like, the pitch to Gabby would be, you're going to be a starter here. You're going to play in so many competitions. We're going to get you into that Brazil 2026 team. And if you have an amazing World Cup, and if you want to go at that time, we'll sell you for, who knows what his transfer value will be at that point. So I feel like, from his perspective, I feel like the Galaxy is still the best place for him, in my opinion.
Well, yeah.
We're gonna this caveat
look
here
at that.
to discuss with it. Would you sell him in the summer once all the competitions, major ones, are done? Because I feel like that might also be an option to keep an eye on as well, given that, most teams generally want to sign their players in the summer. They'll be more willing to spend that money in the summer compared to the winters. I mean, historically speaking,
right?
More bigger transfer fees have happened in the summer. So if I were you guys, keep an eye out for that option, because I think that's something that definitely might be in play, come the next year.
I don't know. I think if the Galaxy start a project with them for the year, I don't see him. I don't see them going like, all right, we're going to start a project and include Gabriel Peggy for the year and then sell him mid-year. I don't see it, but then again, a lot can change in a couple of months. I mean, we don't know what this roster is even going to look like. So we don't know if we don't know if these cats unearth a new Gabriel Pecci out there, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, the Galaxy can't afford to sell Gabriel Pecci because they unearth the new one. We don't know if Joseph Paintsville is going to go off next year after he's finally gotten like a couple months rest and become absolutely indispensable. Yeah, we don't know these things, guys. So
yeah,
I mean,
I feel like that's going to be a lesser priority, but I think the big priorities, the big decisions is what Alex talked about, which is the easily movable, looking at the salary structure, what makes sense. It's Dayon, it's Gaston, it's Diego, right? Those are the three sort of players that, and I mean, especially if you look at from a minutes perspective, especially Diego and Gaston, they were outside looking in, right? Key contributors to the team, no doubt, but for over $1 million each, I think that's where you look. And then with this guy being out for a majority of the year, that's where it gets interesting. Like, what do you do? Because if you take out a piece like Gaston or Diego, that's less midfield depth, right, for the rest of your team. Now you're going to have to rely on either a signing or maybe promoting someone like Parente or Tucker Lepley, right? Let's not forget about those guys as well. So I think that's where it gets really interesting, is this midfield and how we cope with the loss of this guy right here.
Yeah, Alex. Well, I mean, what do you think happens now? I mean, the Ricky doesn't get injured, right? Totally legit. You're looking to cash in on Diego because of his salary, but like Ananda just mentioned, they become that much more important in light of Ricky Puig's injury. Who, by the way, Galaxy fans, if you haven't heard, he did undergo successful ACL surgery in Spain. He's with his family now in Barcelona. Getting those home comforts. So, I mean, what do you do here? I mean, do you go ahead and try to find a new midfielder somewhere in the league and get rid of these $1 million contracts here with Gaston and Diego Fagundes? Or, I mean, I kind of know your answer already with Diego, because you said, like, if you're GM, you're selling him, right? But what about Gaston?
Yeah.
What about somebody like Gaston?
I mean, I'd keep Gaston for two reasons. I think I kind of mentioned it kind of heading into the MLS Cup final. Like, he's the guy who closest resembles the progressiveness with the ball that Ricky Puig has, right? He's a guy who's not afraid to play that final ball. He has the quality to do so. You obviously saw that in his assists in MLS Cup. I think he's a key component because of that. And obviously he's Ricky's best friend on the team. He's, one of the guys that Ricky's most close with. You got to kind of keep him there as he's recovering. So I'm keeping Gaston, keep him for this year. I think he's still got things left in the tank. And, he's obviously coming off a year where he was kind of recovering from his meniscus injury, but I think this upcoming season should be a lot healthier, should be a lot better. Mark Delgado can have him for one more year. Now that's going to be the real interesting decision a year from now. What do you do with that guy? Because he's out of contract, no options anymore. So what do you do with that guy? But yeah, Ananda, you mentioned it. Guys like Parente, Tucker Lepley. I mean, Greg Vanney's been able to kind of improve players, especially younger players, been able to develop them in their game. We kind of saw that with Daniel Aguirre, right, a couple of years ago, where he became one of those guys that Greg Vanney tended to rely on off the bench. We saw this year with Evan Surreal, where he's become like, I don't know if maybe you can have the conversation if he's an elite six, just the way he plays that role. It's just so good when you watch him off the ball and on the ball. But I can see Lepley. That's a player the Galaxy is pretty high on. He's a guy that did pretty good at UCLA, and he's been a starter for Ventura County all season long. And I think that's going to go a long way to kind of prepare him for more minutes this upcoming year. And Parente's been a guy who's played in the Columbus Crew, so he's already used to those high possession teams. And I can see him getting more minutes. So I think you got to use some of the depth you have there. And like I said, if you're gonna I would do, if you're gonna trade away Diego Fagundes, I mean, just promote somebody else up there who you can maybe get a decent amount of production out of for way less cost.
Chat, we are coming to the end of our time together today. But before we get out of here, I want you guys to go ahead and let me know, hearing everything that you've heard today, hearing how difficult it is to repeat an MLS, let us know if you think the LA Galaxy can run it back next year for a 7th MLS Cup. Start dropping that in chat. I mean, seven to heaven, or stairway to 7, right? Guys, it's going to be difficult. Profe, you said keep Gaston, keep Mark, and I agree. That's going to be a hell of a decision for next year. Future problems. But if you could go out and get one midfielder in the league or worldwide even. And you know, I know you like to play within the realm of actual possibilities. So I mean, I don't really got to say that, but like if you could go out and get one midfielder to spell Ricky Puig, who would it be?
Well, I haven't done much research around the world, but if I'm going MLS, if you're looking for a guy to kind of replace Ricky Puig, kind of be able to, and realistic, obviously, you could say Messi, right? But that's not going to happen.
Right.
But if I were to kind of just think realistically, somebody who can bring in that attacking, powerhouse that Ricky Puig is, who's able to, get forward on the ball, kind of be able to be a guy that is going to get a lot of touches because again, the Galaxy are so used to kind of having one guy run the show. But I think the Galaxy are going to look for not someone who's like Ricky Puig, but somebody who wants more control, not be as aggressive, right? Because we can understand that Greg Vanney, there's a lot of times where he's not happy with Ricky, doing the things he does, losing the ball, being too aggressive. But the player I would get that I think makes the most sense, and this is maybe someone that and you can maybe keep for a little bit, given that we might see some more movement come this year, is I don't know if this is realistic, but someone like what's his he's on Miami because Miami also is going to need Kramaski, that kid. There we go. I feel like if you can make it, if you can make a trade for him, obviously he's not Ricky Puig, but he's a guy who is still very young. I don't know how much Miami values him. I don't know. I think it might be pretty hard to get him just because he's also one of those guys that's been in the locker room over these last couple of years with Messi. But look, he's a younger guy, a guy who's gotten looks from both Argentina and the USA and the youth national team setup. He's a midfielder, I think, that's going to be a workhorse, that's going to be able to put it in a good shift, play defense. You don't want to kind of get a guy who's going to steal the spotlight from Ricky, right? Because then you're going to have a problem going down that rabbit hole. But I think he might be a guy that, can add some stability. Again, like I mentioned earlier, Greg's kind of able to, get the most out of players. And I think he's a guy who's got a high MLS ceiling. And I think if you give him to Greg, I think he'll develop him into a, Mark Delgado type player. And obviously with the conversation with Mark Delgado a year from now, he might be the right guy to succeed him.
Yeah. Ben Kramaski, I just looked it up, Alex, $200K a year. He's on right now.
And what about you, Ananda? If you had carte blanche and you said, okay, these are this is the player that I'd bring in to spell Ricky.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, he's irreplaceable, right? So let's just start with that premise. Like, you can't really replace him.
Well, we know,
we
know that,
so,
but I'm looking at somebody that you bring in to spell him, and that when Ricky comes back, will be complimentary off of him. I mean, that would really be the goal.
So to that point, I don't think we have to look for a like for like, right? We've got, again, depending on how the roster shapes up, we got Marco Reus that can play the 10 position. We've seen a midfield of Brugman, Delgado, and Cerrillo, right? Like, and Brugman and Delgado sort of switching to the 2/8s or whoever's pressing up top and whoever's a little bit more withdrawn. But Rob, I'm going to go back to this guy, and again, I feel like going back to your point about complementary. What are we missing? I'm looking at profiles. Azil Jackson, Papa. I don't know what it is about that player. It's like he is such a workhorse in that midfield. Azil Jackson, Papa. Azil.
Okay.
AZ. I mean, because again, I'm looking at profiles because I'm thinking about players like Pereira, Andres Kubas. I love those type of players. And the one thing we're missing in this midfield is a little bit of steel when you need it in certain games, especially like against Seattle, right? Azil Jackson is just an energizing bunny, man. He has so much stamina. He gets around the pitch, but he adds something a little different. He's also a very affordable option as well. And I feel like I want to say he hasn't really gotten much playing time this year. So maybe that's a realistic option that we can get. But I love players like that has a huge engine on him. And again, he's on Columbus. He's on a Wilfred Nancy team, right? Possession. He's used to that possession style. So maybe someone like him, man.
You need someone too. I'll add this real quickly with CONCACAF champions. You need somebody with the dark arts, man. You're gonna be going down to Mexico. There's gonna be some shady stuff going down there. You need somebody who's kind of used to that. So I wouldn't be surprised if you hear a shock name from South America or even the Mexican League. You need an enforcer there, especially with that Ricky. You kind of need a guy to set the tone and those kind of tough affairs. So if I'm Will Kuntz, I'm kind of looking and scouting in that area. That's what I would be looking at for sure.
I might get some hate in the chat for this one, right? But looking at the list of MLS free agents, right? Because again, you're trying to be thrifty. You don't have a ton of money to spend, right? The two names that jumped out to me in free agency automatically were Albert Rusnak, which is probably a long shot. The Galaxy did try to get him to come to Los Angeles a couple years ago, and then we're going to Seattle. Already there's a little bit of bad blood there because Rusnak, talked some mess on the Galaxy earlier in the year. But the other one, and like I said, this one might catch me some hate, is another Jackson. Ananda, you said Aziel Jackson, which is why I kind of like perked my head up. But the Jackson I'm thinking of is Jackson Ewell from San Jose. I mean, he has a ton of experience already. He's still in the prime of his career. He's 27. He's more of like a holding type midfielder, which frees up Gaston to play that more advanced role that you want. If you want to play that double pivot role, then Sergio and you are gonna like lock it down in front of your defense for you, right? If you're only trying to play one of them, then you have that depth coming off the bench, right? So I think that proposition of having Jackson Ewell is really, really interesting. He is a free agent. I mean, he has been on a terrible team for years. I mean, the selling point is like, hey, come try to get a ring here, like even if you're not like starting every game, you can go ahead and try to win here. Alex Ring is another one. He plays a 6 or an 8. So he's probably good for a couple positions there in your midfielder and good for at the very least depth. If you're trying to get an experienced, very experienced, no shade, locker room presence, then Ale Bedoya. He's out of contract there in Philadelphia. So
did he just resign?
Yeah,
I feel like I just saw he just
today. I missed that
today.
one. Well, that's why you want to have that guy in the locker room, because he's experienced, right? So
really quick,
I will say, Rob, that
no, go ahead, Alex. Go ahead, Alex.
I was just gonna say, Rob, that's a really good shout with Jackson Ewell. Something we haven't talked about too is the international spots, right? They reset every year, and I think being able to sign a free agent, a guy who doesn't have to take up that spot, a guy who's a veteran MLS. Sure, you might have a little too many holding midfielders in the team, and you did mention Gaston kind of moving up, maybe playing that 8 role. But I mean, that's something that I could see a real decent possibility. I mean, just having that roster flexibility to not need to spend out general allocation money on an international roster spot, because the Galaxy, knowing them, if they're going to reinforce themselves, they're going to buy internationals, they're going to spend that money. And they're going to need those international spots. So yeah, really good shout, Rob. I didn't really think about that till like just a couple minutes ago.
I almost didn't even want to say it because he does play for San Jose, and it is hard for players to come from San Jose to Los Angeles. I mean, Alan Gordon, I mean, he's probably the one guy withstanding that, is loved by both fan bases. But speaking of being loved by two different fan bases, another interesting free agent that I saw that I was like, ooh, I don't know if that could happen just for fan base reasons, right? Ilie Sanchez, who was actually courted by the Galaxy.
That's
heavily.
a guy who the football's gone from him.
Yeah,
football's gone.
You think so?
I think so. I think so too. Yeah,
Huh?
I agree. But
he didn't get a lot of time for LAFC this year either. Towards the end.
Side note: Jossie's a free agent.
I'd like to bring him back. I mean, that's more of an emotional thing, though. I mean,
correct.
Correct. I mean, could he give you more goals than someone like Miguel Berry? I think so. But then again, they're different profile strikers. So
correct.
Yep. Well, guys, that pretty much brings us to the end. We did ask chat, what do the Galaxy need to do to run it back for 7th MLS Cup, or can they even run it back? Alex, early prediction. You already gave us one earlier. If you had to call it right now, are the LA Galaxy running it back and winning their 7th MLS Cup title next year?
No. There's just too many variables that I have no control of what's going to happen. We honestly have no idea if Ricky Puig is going to be the same player again. Obviously, that's a really dark thing to talk about and on, but I mean, that's the stark reality is like the way the guy plays, he depends on those quick movements. I don't know how much confidence he's going to have in that ACL. Obviously, Gabriel Pacquiao and Joveljic, major questions. Everything else, I really don't know. So because there's so many ifs and not that many things checked off, I'm going to say no.
Yeah.
Well, Ananda, before we get your answer, let's get a couple from chat here. The question was, can the LA Galaxy run it back? I believe we had something from the one and only a little bit earlier, but she says the Galaxy can get the 7th cup if we keep this momentum going. Hoping Ricky recovery is effective, just like you said, Alex. Hoping that recovery is effective and soon, because that will be key for this upcoming season. Anandita, what do you think, man? If you had to call it right now, are the Galaxy running it back and winning the 7th MLS Cup next year?
I mean, Rocio just said it, right? There's a lot of hope, ifs, ands, and buts. I think there's just too many variables, like Alex was saying. I think Ricky's sort of how he comes back from injury, I think is the biggest variable that we don't know, and we need him, right? We need him to make a deep run in the playoffs. We need him to make to go deep in comp competitions, and we won't have him for most of the comp competitions this year. Really, he'll be back for towards the end of MLS,
the stretch run,
the stretch run, and the 10-game stretch that Greg likes. So, yeah, man, Will Kuntz has got a lot of work to do.
Massive task.
But let me flip this though on its head, and let me take this to a positive. If there was one guy that I wanted in this particular job to handle all these different variables and to put this team in a position to succeed with what he has in front of him, it's Will Kuntz. Hands down.
You're not wrong. Counterpoint to that, I did see someone on X say it's been a week since the Galaxy have won MLS Cup, and they haven't won another one. Vanny out, Kuntz out, right? and I just thought it was hilarious, because that, I mean, I know they were jesting, but that sometimes that's really how this Galaxy community can get sometimes. Guys, it's going to be hard to get to this moment again here. Will Kuntz taking that selfie in front of Legends Plaza. We have big Mike Gray, el Miggy Gris down there. I see Wifey down there in the crowd as well.
I see someone in a light green jacket. I was about to say.
Yeah, I see Wifey down there as well. But yeah, it's going to be really hard to get to this moment again, guys. I mean, I've asked these two gentlemen. I don't think so. It's going to be extremely hard. So many variables, like Profe Alex said, like Ananda said, what kind of player will Ricky come back and be? So much that is out of even Will Kuntz's control. He can't control what kind of player Ricky's going to come back and be. I mean, yeah, Ananda?
I was gonna say, I like what Potter Miss is saying though. Here is make the Diggs a fortress again, and then we'll see. That's a great place to start and finish the conversation as well. That home field, man, what an advantage this year. And yeah, let's try to beat that 12th man, right, as fans.
Exactly. The fans made the Diggs a fortress, and they went undefeated there all year. So really, as much as the team needs to put forward and Will Kuntz needs to put forward, fans need to put forward as well. And that's pretty much where we'll wrap it up. Potter Miss LAG says make Fortress of Diggs, then we'll see. I like it. That's a really nice way to sign off. But before we do, Profe Alex, please let the folks know where they can find you and where they can read your words.
Yeah, so you can find my articles and coverage of the LA Galaxy on the galactictribune.org. You can kind of find me on X. I'm on there at that handle right there at Alex Ruiz 15. And obviously, I'm a contributor here with the Los Galacticos. Me and Ananda, we enjoy it. I have a lot of fun. It's definitely something that I'm really looking forward to getting more content out of.
Support
so yeah,
them,
you can
y'all.
find me on those mediums.
Y gracias al profe Alex Ruiz por otra vez estar con nosotros aquí en Laguna Galaxiana. Thank you once again, profe. Anita, anything to add before I take us home?
I was going to say, man, I think, Alex, we've got some good stuff to noodle on for today and build off of for maybe Los Galacticos, right? Had a couple names. Yeah. We might do a couple scouting videos. Who knows, man? I mean, there's a Jackson Yule scouting report. Anyone? Takers? Bueller?
Well, anyway. Whatever it ends up being, guys, go ahead and support these two gentlemen because they put in a lot of work on these videos. And it really, I mean, they're kind of pioneers and trendsetters as well because, LA Galaxy end up winning MLS Cup. Who told you how it got done? These two gentlemen with their latest video on Vanny Ball. How did the Galaxy win MLS Cup? Vanny Ball, son, plain and simple. What is Vanny Ball? These gentlemen told you all about it in that video. So go ahead and catch those when you can. And guys, reminder, We are on a Monday schedule until shortly before the CVI. So we will not be seeing you on Thursday this week. We'll be seeing you again next Monday, December 23rd at 9 p.m. And we're going to be taking a look back on a magical season. We'll have ESPN's Katia Castorena here, and she's going to be helping us relive the highest of the high moments from the Galaxy's 2024 MLS Cup winning campaign. Guys, if you're here, it's because you found us on youtube.com/@Lacuna Galaxiana. And man, we can't thank you enough for doing so and for sticking with us, for hanging out with us, and El Profe Alex Ruiz and El Gitano Perdido y El Yerno Guapo. Thank you guys once again, for all of us here at Lacuna Galaxiana. First off, 6 times, baby, campeones. And then second off, one thing left to say. G's up! Tu y yo. For Raquinho.